Today's episode of Extraordinary Woman is Miss Kristina Audencial. Hi, Kristina.
Hello, Miss Vashti. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Of course, I had to ask you to be a part of this because you, especially in recent times today, you have been a true heaven sent person to really helping me with a lot, coping through a lot. And you have been truly inspiring me every single day. So it was only right that I would ask you to be a part of this episode. To start off, let's just talk about how did you get your start in the broadcasting industry?
Let's see. Well, I knew in high school I wanted to be in news. And so I was part of like this morning production thing that we had in high school where the students would produce and direct and write all the morning announcements essentially. And I was one of the anchors for that. So I knew ever since I was in high school, like this is what I wanted to do. It was, I actually started in San Diego. I interned at Channel 10 at KGTV. And as soon as I graduated college, I was automatically a writer for them, fill-in producer. So I kind of went backwards. A lot of people want to be a reporter or anchor, and they, right off the bat, they go to a college that's meant for journalism, and then they, start off reporting in a smaller town. But because I was already in San Diego, I wanted to get my foot in the door. So I did it as a writer and then turned producer and kind of worked my way up. So I started producing for the first 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm so, I didn't realize at the time that it was actually a blessing in disguise because I wasn't a very good producer. I was not very good in the control booth. My stress level was just way too high. But now I look back and I'm so thankful that I started out that like as a writer and a producer because I know exactly what the producers are thinking. I know exactly how it's run. I know what goes on behind the scenes. So now when I'm in front of the camera, I know exactly what you're thinking. I'm not second guessing it. So that's pretty much it. And I actually left the business for 2 years, 2.5 years after my first reporting job. There were a lot of different personal reasons and I got distracted and I just told myself I didn't want to do news. So I actually left news for a couple years and then lo and behold, I came back. Something felt like it was missing. And so I followed that instinct and then look where I am today. It's such a blessing. And thank goodness I listened and I wasn't shrugging it off for like having my weekends open and, things like that. So,
yeah. You that first instinct, as my dad always says, when the first instinct that you get, you just have to trust it. And if something doesn't feel right, that's because it's not right. You have to get back to what felt right at that time.
Absolutely.
What gets you up in the morning? Like, when you first wake up and that alarm goes off, what goes through your head? What motivates you to get up every day and to come into work and to sit at that desk every morning?
Well, truth be told, it's just the idea that I get another day. I get another day to further God's kingdom. That's what I look at it every day, even if I don't feel like it. So that's important to talk about because you're right. We get up really, really early. And this isn't my first rodeo doing the morning show. When I was producing and writing, I was also doing the same shift. So I know all about it. And if you focus too much on your emotions and what you're feeling, like I didn't get enough sleep, or maybe I was really sad because yesterday was a bad day. And when you wake up, you're like, ugh, you really have to be disciplined and remind yourself. So this is what I do. So I'm just speaking for myself, but what I think of, like, even if I'm just, my eyes are throbbing and I know like I didn't get enough sleep and I had bad dreams or whatever, I take a second and I get myself disciplined to say, but God, thank you for another day. And I'm grateful to be alive. That's actually one of the first things that's out of my mouth. Like, thank you for waking me up this morning. Thank you for giving me another opportunity to speak about you, to let people know about you. And honestly, because ever since I started doing that, my days are just, they're not the same. I mean, they're not the same in a sense that I go to work like, because we have sometimes those moments.
Yeah.
But now I can actually get to work and I'm good. I'm ready. I don't drink coffee in the morning. A lot of people ask how. It's God. It's just I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I don't need anything
It's
else.
always good to just remain like find something that you're grateful for. Find something positive about, whether it's you're in good health, whether it's because you have a roof over your head. Just find
Absolutely.
something to be grateful for. So I definitely relate to that. Totally understand. And ever since, recently you and I, we talk a lot. And so ever since I've been doing that a lot more now, I find it a little bit easier myself to come into work, even when I don't, as you said, when I don't feel like it. It's like, oh, this is so early. I still find a way to just get up and still find something to be grateful for.
Absolutely. You start speaking it and it's just, oh, okay.
Yep.
It's like having yourself speak it, you hear it, and you're just like, okay, this is my truth. This is where I'm at. So yeah.
Yep. You're recently married, and I just want to say congratulations
Thank
again. I
you.
said you got married, but congratulations again for everybody who are getting to know you right now. You're recently married, so how has the newlywed life been for you, and also how are you balancing that with your work life and the crazy hours you work?
It's so interesting because we got married at the end of January of this year.
Mm-hmm.
So about a month before the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because as soon as the pandemic hit, my mom was actually in between countries. She was trying to get back to the Philippines where she and my dad live, but got stuck here because all the flights were canceled. So she actually lived with us for the first 3 months of us being newlywed. So it's so funny because I look at it now. We've been married for about 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here for three of those months. So we really have only had just about 2 months, just kind of like you said, getting into a routine and actually understanding what it's like to, have work, because, he didn't have work for 2 months. And so it's just all these different things. I honestly, I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I'm blessed. We have a roof over our head. It's interesting you bring up the hours because we go to sleep so early. So if I'm going to sleep at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., sometimes he doesn't even get back from work until after those hours. So sometimes we miss each other during the day.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I'm just awake long enough so when he comes home, I can say, this is what's for dinner, have a good night. And then he'll be downstairs. I go upstairs and try to go to sleep. So we really only have the weekends sometimes or Friday nights.
Mm-hmm.
But there are times that I'm just like, I wish I had more time with you. But at the very least, we're working. But this pandemic put a lot of things into perspective. So it's like, at least we're working, we have jobs, we have a place of our own, people, and we're all healthy. So I don't even know if I can answer that because we're still kind of figuring out how that all works,
Yeah.
And but it's fun too, because then on the weekends, it's like, yeah, like I look forward to the weekends and I'm like, we get to go hiking and
Yeah.
so it
Yeah.
gives something to look forward to, like, I guess, in a sense, for the weekends.
Yeah, I completely understand that because I have the same thing. My husband gets home like right as I'm going to bed. So
Exactly.
we miss each other as well. And then it's funny that you mentioned the pandemic and everything, and how it's like all kind of a blessing in disguise. I've been viewing this pandemic as a moment to reflect a lot on your relationships with people, that it's an opportunity to really, see and get to know the person that you're with. You get to spend quality time with them, because everything's closed. Like, what else are you gonna do? There's you have no choice but to really spend time with each other and talk to each other, right? So
Absolutely.
I completely understand when you say, you're starting to get into a routine now. But now, how is your mom and your dad? Did they safely get back to the Philippines?
My mom is safe and sound. She's back home. My dad couldn't be more thrilled because they were apart for about 4 months.
Okay.
And so it was hard for my dad to be, in a third world country, by himself while this is all happening around him. And of course, as women, my mom, she was just so worried about my dad, like, no one's taking care of him, and et cetera, et cetera. So she just wanted to get back and be with him, and they're so good right now. And
Yeah.
I'm just, again, it's like, I can't, oh my goodness, praise God. They're both healthy. My mom went on that long flight overseas. And so naturally, a lot of us were like, all right, well, we're going to see what's going to happen. But she tested negative as soon as she arrived and everything. So it's all good. Yeah, I know.
Um, yes, thank you God for that. That is really good. I mean, they say older people, they're definitely more prone to get the virus and everything because they're a little bit older. So that's
Absolutely.
actually she truly had angels on her side while she was flying back. So I'm glad that she's doing well. And I'm glad that your dad is doing very well in the Philippines.
Yeah.
What would you say is the most challenging experience you've ever had, whether it's professionally or personally, and how did you handle it?
Okay. Well, okay. So let me think real quick. It's interesting when you bring up challenging times, whether it's professionally or personally. The one thing that I can see clearly, because hindsight is 2020. One thing that's very clear to me is that I didn't have my priorities straight,
Mm-hmm.
and I say that because the reason why those times were challenging for me is because I didn't have the right self-worth. So I was looking for self-worth in other things, other people. And that's, again, professionally and personally. And because I did not have Jesus at the center of my life. And so I say this now just so you can kind of understand where I'm coming from. But I grew up a Catholic, and Catholics are very, very religious. There are certain rules in place. So I grew up knowing these rules, but not truly understanding what it meant to seek God, to seek Jesus first, and to have a true relationship with Him. And it wasn't until about 2 to 3 years ago. Okay, 3 years ago was when I finally started to. I was really in a rut. I was going downhill fast, and I couldn't understand why I was so angry, why I felt so belittled, why in just so many different areas of my life. And so I started to seek Him. And I remember telling myself, like, when people say they have a relationship with Jesus, what do they mean? Like, I remember asking myself that. So when I finally started to seek Him and I started to read the Bible, and I had to switch churches. I wasn't getting what I needed out of a Catholic church, so I went to Christian churches, and I was just like, oh, this is what it is. This is what I needed. I needed a relationship with God. So, and now when I look back, so whether it's quitting the news business, so I would say that was one of the most challenging things for me professionally. And personally, I had a failed marriage. I was married before in my 20s and got a divorce early, and got into very abusive relationships following that failed marriage. So I think when I look back, and those are, oh my gosh, here goes my testimony. When I look back at those moments in my life, it was because I didn't know who I was. I didn't feel worthy of anything. I felt worthless. So when you start looking for that in other places, your life gets messed up. You're distracted. You're easily confused. And so now I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, if I had just like, Jesus, I need you, maybe things would have been different. So I'm actually grateful for those challenges, like, yeah, quitting news and just saying bye to something that I had worked so hard for, and getting my foot in the door, and all the overnight hours and the long hours and the missed holidays and the working weekends. And I gave that all away.
Yeah.
Because I got distracted by my personal life. And it was a shame at the time, but now I'm thankful for it, because it made me realize how, I was actually saying no to the talents that was given to me by our Creator. And I'm just like, no, no, I'll do something else. And then that's why it's really funny, because you make plans for yourself and He's like, what are you doing? So you have to listen. And if you listen, then and so finally I'm here. And so, oh, thank God for that.
Piggybacking off of what you said, where you went through a time period where you had to really find yourself, and you were looking for who you were in the wrong places, and looking for that self-worth in the wrong places, in the wrong areas. I know for me right now, being in my 20s, I tend to I tend to find myself all over the place from time to time.
It's
Um, do you think that that's common for a lot of women today to just go through? Like, for a woman to truly discover who she is, do you think women have to go through trial and error to really figure out and discover who they really are?
I would say that it is normal. So there's two parts of this. I would say it's normal, because women, we are such emotional beings, and so sometimes we let our emotions take over our lives. And when we're making really big decisions, we tend to follow our emotions. The problem is that
Mm,
emotions come and go, and sometimes, and I'm talking even biologically, sometimes if you're hormonal or if there's a chemical imbalance, you're going to base big real life decisions on an emotion that you just feel and will go.
mm,
So you have to understand is that what we have to understand is that emotions are fleeting. Sometimes they lie to you. We have to take captive of our thoughts and our emotions. Okay, now I say that, but the other side to that, and I didn't know this in my 20s, and I wish I had. Um, there is no reason to be all over the place if, as a Christian woman, we have Jesus at the center, because that's where our knowledge and our worldly wisdom ends and he begins. That's where faith takes place. So if you're getting consumed by all these different things, like, oh, but this, and who am I, that before you are your parents' daughter, before you are a wife, before your mother, whatever it is, you are, if you are a Christian woman, a child of God. If you know that as your center, you come back to that. So, when I think, anything stressful, anything that's heartbreaking, anything that is pulling at your heart, sometimes I have to take a deep breath. I'm like, okay, why am I seeking knowledge in other places? I know exactly who to go to. He's bigger than any of this. He already knows how this ends. He already knows. He's already making a way, and we don't even see it. That's how good he is.
mhm,
So if we bring it back and we center ourselves in him and we lean into him, then we can breathe. And then there's none of that. It's like, what do you mean? Why do you need to find your self-worth in this, or well, I'm this, and I'm 30 this and this and that, and I'm supposed to be doing this at this time. It's like, no, lean into him and just let him help you. And that's where faith takes place. And it's amazing because, like I said, if you actually listen and let him guide you like he wants you to, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, it's like, see everything else fall at the wayside. You're like, okay, bye. Like,
yeah.
I didn't need any of that. Like, I'm good.
While we're actually on the subject too, talking about faith and just having a relationship with God, of course, you're very transparent about your relationship with God. You're very open about being a woman of faith. Now, given everything we've already talked about so far, what you've gone through, what you've learned, why is it so important to you to continue to maintain that relationship with God? Because
Everything that I have is because of him. You know what I mean? Like, there's every breath that I take, every time I take a deep breath and the air fills my lungs, it's all because of him. I realized, it's so funny now. I want to say I realized too late, but no, it's actually not at all. I mean, I found him, about 3 years ago, even though I prayed to him all my life, and I was going to mass every single Sunday all my life. But didn't understand it. And what I always tell people, because I do get messages from people, they're like, thank you so much for being vocal about your faith. It's not easy. It is not easy. You get persecuted for being a woman of faith, for being a woman of God. You do. It just happens. I pray for boldness every day. I pray for courage because it's hard. Sometimes you second guess yourself, like, am I allowed to say this? Like, can I talk to you about God? I even said that to you about this podcast. I'm like, how open do you want me to be about my faith? Because without it, I'm nothing. Without him, I am nothing. Without him, I am only part of the world, and I don't want to be part of the world because I know who runs this world. and he lives under the earth, and I don't want to have any part of him. So that's how that works.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I am so open and transparent, because once you get a taste of his goodness, you can't be quiet about it. And you want to tell people so they know, like, you can have this. And not only can you have this, but you don't have to live in the confusion, and you don't have to be lonely and angry and depressed, and you don't have to be like, you can say goodbye to addiction. Like, you can say bye to all of these things that you never thought you could do. And the only way is through him and to seek him. Listen, you have a relationship with him. You know where you go as soon as you take your last breath here on earth. Then you spend the rest of your life with your creator. The world is temporary. Everything, our bodies, our jobs, what we see right in front of us, it's all fleeting. It's all temporary. He's eternal. I want that faithfulness and that love for forever and ever and ever. That's why I'm so transparent.
We have officially reached the final part, my favorite part of this show, where I like to call Raise Your Glass.
Okay.
And basically what I do is I ask a general question. We discuss it. And then at the end, I'm going to make a toast to you, Kristina, for being an extraordinary woman. And then we're going to make a toast to all the women out there who are being extraordinary, who are motivating all women. So
I love it.
Let's go ahead and jump right into it. So agree or disagree? Women should be more vocal about their accomplishments. Brag just a little bit more. Be proud.
I think it is a good thing to talk about your accomplishments, as long as you understand, as long as you know where that comes from.
Yep.
So when people look at me and they're like, "You're so successful," and I'm like, "That's all him. I'm not anything without him. I don't have talent without him." If I know every single day I'm working my behind off because I'm working for him and no one else. Truly. If I know that at the end of the day, I'm like, I did well today because I used your talent that you blessed me with to the best of my ability, then that's good. As long as like you might get a promotion, maybe you get a bonus from work, and you're like, "Look at me, I worked so darn hard. Look at my check." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Like, okay, but why and where and how and who provides for that, right? That's my thing. So yes, absolutely be proud, because at the end of the day, it is your decision. Everyone has a choice to make. It's called free will. So yes, we should talk about our compliments and lift each other up, just as long as we know who we give glory to.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, a lot of the stuff, like I even say now, like being a news writer at the station, I mean, that is something that I talk about a lot, that I am proud of. And to be honest, I mean, I always, thank God for it, because there was a time where I struggled to get my foot in the door, just with a simple news writing position. I struggled.
Of course.
And at one point, I remember wanting to give up and completely just like, nope, forget it. I'm done. It's not gonna happen for me. But one day, I just let him guide me. I was patient. I waited for his timing. Mm-hmm. And I realized that pretty much everything that I have now is because I really have prayed for it and I've asked him for it.
Right.
So accomplishments, possessions, or whatever you want, whatever it is that you're proud of, I know that it all comes from him. And I'm happy to talk about it and be open about it, because I am blessed.
Yes. Woo, I like that.
So let me go ahead, Kristina. I'm going to make with my cold coffee in here. A glass of wine, but it's still the afternoon for me, and I only have a glass of wine on Fridays. But I just want to say, Kristina, first of all, thank you for joining me on today's episode of Extraordinary Woman. And thank you for being extraordinary. Thank you for being inspiring. Thank you for being motivating and being a woman of faith and helping me every day. When you come into work and I see you and I talk to you, just thank you. And also thank you and toast to all the other extraordinary women out there. You guys are killing it. Continue to kill it. and continue to be a boss.
Woo, cheers.
Cheers.